I live kind of right around the corner there in the lower part of Sterling Creek. I worked in fire for the Forest Service for almost exactly 20 years. BD crews and hotshot crews. Used to burn clear cuts back in the 70s. And then did the hotshot thing for a few years. Was a squad leader on the Wenatchee and foreman on the Mount Hood hotshot crew. Of course, that kind of crew has a foreman and a superintendent. So I had adult supervision. It's okay. Okay, that's enough filler. It looks like everybody's back that's coming back. Okay, I'm going to start. Prescription for safety. This is basically we are trying to move toward community response to fire, to the threat of fire. And specifically, we know that 85%, and that number might be old, 85% of the houses in Fire District 9 have done their defensible space. They've swept their roof, they've trimmed their bushes, they've moved however many feet out from their house and done work to prevent a wildfire from eating their house. So we saw an opportunity to expand that kind of progress and that kind of knowledge on the part of property owners, that they're smart enough to know that there's a problem and have educated themselves. And we wanted to get into travelways and build the networks of modified fuel to head off the next disaster and to move toward restoring low severity fire, which I think by now everybody's watched enough Discovery Channel specials and things like that to know that that's what we ultimately have to do. If you live in this mixed conifer type of forest, we got to start burning. And low severity fire is what the indigenous folks did, and it worked. And all of the scientists say that that's a big part of any solution. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to move toward fire permeable communities. And yes, I did coin that phrase. We got talking with some of my neighbors right after the Paradise fire. The fire that burned the town of Paradise and killed 85 people, I think it is. And so we thought first order of business probably ought to be roadside fuels. If we can thin pile and burn, that's the basic prescription, along our evacuation routes out of the Little Applegate, we can make it so that as you're trying to evacuate, either you can't see because of the smoke and you run off the road, or there's so much fuel adjacent to the road that your tires catch fire, both of which things happened on the Paradise fire and the Cedar fire earlier. Back quite a while ago, there was a fire in Southern California that killed 16 civilians, I think it was. And it was like the first time I, as a firefighter, former firefighter, had heard of so many civilians being killed, like not since the early 20th century. And so we're starting to get a lot of people killed, is what I'm saying. And I mean our policies. And so we wanted to make our roads less like this. And this is a perfect example: dense surface and ladder fuels. It's really easy for a surface fire in a stand like this to transition, to climb the trees on the ladder fuels and start crowning out. And all the years that I fought fire, once fire becomes a crown fire, that moving through the tops of the trees, there's nothing you can do but get your crew out of the way and maybe flank it until the wind changes or until it moves into a different fuel type. So crown fire is one of the things we want to avoid. But again, a lot of our road system looks like this, and it would be extremely hairy if that was on fire to try to drive out and get out of the Little Applegate that way. So we started gathering partners and people that would work with us. And OSU Extension, Kara Baylog, I want to mention her. She really did a lot of work. Extension was able to provide us with contact information and help us design advertisements that would get people interested in contacting us and so forth. And SOFRIC, the Southern Oregon Forest Restoration Collaborative, Terry Fairbanks is the director, And where is she? Oh, there she is. Full disclosure, we are related by marriage, at least since 1980. We're starting to think it's going to work out. Yeah, Terry, she's going to kill me. Okay, and then Nate Garris. There's Nate right there, and again, amazing people. Nate's the Applegate Watershed Council, and they've been wonderful with this stuff. ODF, Herb Johnson, KS Wild, Alexi Lavecchio, she's now moved on. She's like assistant to the governor or something. Anyway, she's moved up, actually, I guess you'd say. And then locals, John Gallego, Rich Fairbanks, yay, and many, many other people were involved in this, and I would love to give them all credit, but my memory sucks, so I've forgotten a lot of the names. Originally, we solicited landowners along Sterling Creek, Griffin Lane, and part of Highway 238. We had a pretty small area that we were looking at. We solicited through SOFRIC, Federal Title II grant, and more recently an ODF 762. By the way, Senate Bill 762, if you haven't heard about it, it's the biggest change in fire management that the state of Oregon has done since I've been living in Oregon, which is a long time. It's really fairly revolutionary, and Jeff Golden gets a lot of credit, Senator Golden. Anyway, the Applegate Partnership assisted, and the majority of the work was accomplished by Lomacatsi, although many others helped, including Nate there, holding the hose for, I forget that gentleman's name. Yeah, Nate gets out. What's that? Chris Adler with the OSU. Oh, it was Chris. That's a PhD fire ecologist. That's what they look like when they're mopping up. So you've seen a PhD in the wild. It's really cool. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, guys. I really did work on a fire cruise for 20 years, and the cussing is a problem, and I'm working on it. The road selection followed the PODs, okay? Potential operational delineations, PODs. You'll hear a lot about that, and we followed their protocol, except that what PODs is some science that developed these potential control lines where they said, like the old pre-attack blocks, we're going to figure out where the best place is to stop a fire, and then we're going to pre-treat it if we have the money, and we're going to make sure there's less fuel along these because we're going to make that a fire line type thing. But what we said was we wanted evacuation routes and fire lines, which is potential operational delineations. That's what they wanted, was pre-identified fire lines. We wanted to pre-identify evacuation routes, and we wanted to get ready for what we hope is a whole bunch of controlled burning, prescribed fire blocks ahead of time. Because we know long-term prescribed fire is a big part of the solution to this wildfire problem we've got. So this atlas of potential control lines here you see, and there's Applegate Lake. We're right in here. Was developed by a scientist named Chris Dunn and other scientists at Oregon State University. Again, it was the old 1970s pre-attack blocks where they used to send me around with a map and crayons and have me identify all the best places to stop a fire on my ranger district where I used to work. Well, now they do it with computers, so they can lay off all the techs. Just kidding, just kidding, just kidding. And it uses model inputs such as percent of slope, rate of spread, resistance to control, travel costs, etc., to recommend which roads make good fire lines. So these green potential fire lines, that's good science saying that. And also most firefighters would agree those are the best places to stop a fire. Okay, the thing about evacuation routes, there's about 7,000 people living in the little Applegate watershed, by the way. And so that's quite a few vehicles if people need to leave. And our idea was, by the way, there's a road in here. In all that smoke, there's a road. And try to imagine trying to drive that road while there's this much happening. Anyway, so we wanted arterial roads that go somewhere, namely out of the Applegate, that can handle a sudden influx of frightened drivers, right? There's going to be a certain amount of panic out there, trying to evacuate, and sometimes even flames next to the road, while busloads of firefighters and low boys with bulldozers with 8-foot wide blade. I mean, there's all kinds of traffic that's trying to get in there to fight that fire. That's what we're trying to deal with. So, fire lines. We recognize that roads make good fire lines. Most of the time when I was able to, with my crew, was able to stop a fire, even though I worked exclusively hand crews. I never worked engines. So it was, just people. Most of the time when we stopped a fire, it was at a road. Okay, sometimes a little low standard road, but sometimes a fairly major road. But roads make really good fire lines. It's already 16 feet of, non-flammable, so, Anyway, and that roads that have had roadside fuel treatment make even better fire lines, okay? They're like orders of magnitude easier to fight a fire on a road that's had pre-treatment along it. And the reason I try to work this slide into almost every PowerPoint I do, because this is me. This little guy here with the full brim hard hat and the radio strap, that was me, a younger, thinner me. This is 1977. It's a Lost Fire over by Quartz Mountain Summit on the way to Lakeview. Well, anyway, you don't need to know where it was, but the point is that you want to note the dense surface and ladder fuels. You can see the silhouettes through the flames of all these skinny little trees that are trying to grow up after they pop the old growth. And there's even one old growth tree here that they didn't want. But the point is, this is what it looks like. There's a road here. Trust me, there's a road. And we're trying to hold this, okay? This is the first backfire they put me in charge of. So it's kind of my lucky slide. And I'm telling you, we held it, but just barely. I mean, just barely. We had spot fires landing 200 feet behind us, and we're running, squads. We're sending people out. Oh, go get that one, go get that one. Pretty soon you're running out of people to go get that one. And that's kind of how you lose it. So the point is, we had no roadside fuel treatment. And there's some pretty solid science that's come out, specifically the one that I'm relying on when I was trying to design this fuel treatment, that was the Angora fire. It's a mixed conifer. It doesn't look exactly like our mixed conifer, but it's close in terms of fuel loading. And what they said was, under the weather and fuel conditions which characterize the Angora fire, it might thus be generalized that 50 meters is sufficient space to definitively reduce a crown fire to a surface fire. Again, the only way you're going to fight it is you can get it back on the ground, okay? To a surface fire, as long as surface fuels have been explicitly reduced. And that was Hugh Safford, well-known fire ecologist. And what he was basically saying is, they had a fire that ran into a fuel treatment, a place where they did thin pile and burn in our type, mixed conifer fuel type. And it got that fire to stop crowning out, ripping through the tops of the trees, and come down on the surface, and they were able to fight it and stop it. And it had already gobbled like 300 houses. Angora burned a lot of houses, and they stopped it because of this fuel treatment. And that's what we want to do, is we want to make it stoppable, and we want to be able to evacuate. So we got actually 3 objectives. So finally, the third objective is we want roadside vegetation to be a good environment for controlled burning. This is the 3rd time this roadside area has been underburned. And before we did underburning, we did a bunch of thin pile and burn. And that's what it looks like. Even the few, don't have a pointer, sorry. See this poison oak? This technique kicks the crap out of poison oak. Yeah, it does. It knocks it back to a little rosette on the ground so it's not up tickling your nose, So this is another reason to do this kind of treatment. Because I have some hostility toward poison oak. I admit it. I should get counseling, but instead I'm out underburning. Yeah, this is my, my driveway, basically. So, anyway, the point is, there is quite a few people that are doing underburning in Southern Oregon and in the Applegate. And this is one of the many reasons why. So, creates a safer environment for controlled burning. Okay, so how did we do this? The actual physical thing, we wanted to get roughly 81 property owners, 210 acres of roadside to sign up for treatment. And we had a lot of meetings. And again, Extension did a wonderful job of rounding people up and getting them to come to the meetings. We had, one of them was right here in this building here. And this is an ad that we sent out to everybody. And it was very successful. And again, I was really impressed with how many of my neighbors really knew a lot about fire ecology, fire behavior, you know, budgets, things like that. And so we signed up a bunch of people, and we visited the property, and we talked to them about proposed treatments, and a lot of times it was really interesting. People are really knowledgeable about their property. They told us stuff I never would have known. Some little canyon back behind the fuel treatment, I did not know there was like old growth pine in there, you know, that kind of thing. So it was really, really neat to talk to people. And as you can, well, you can't really see because the slide's not very good, but there's a whole bunch of like 5 to 20 acre properties along Sterling Creek Road and Griffin and so forth.
I see some BLM property in, I don't know what to call that, TAN?
Yeah, the TAN, yeah.
Did you have buy-in and active work?
They weren't able to. They were not able to participate, and they had good reasons. Well, you know, legal and budgetary type stuff. So, yeah.
So if I can real quick, Rich.
Yeah.
Throughout my career, I've learned a lot of the same things that Rich is talking about how to go about this. And so with the Title II dollars that the Applegate Fire District was just awarded, and also with our firefighters work, actually putting work on the ground, we're mirroring and building on the work that Terry and Rich and so forth have done on as far as the P4S program. It is what we need to be doing. It's a textbook of not only are we the work that we that collectively we burn piles, we help landowners do some more work. I build off of work that's already done, and then now we're working with BLM to go further into BLM parcels and include some of those parcels that maybe didn't get thought of during the first part. I can't guarantee 100% we could be everywhere, but we're in a much better place now than we were before you guys started that. So
And I got to say, hang on, I got to say that the agencies, both the state fire marshals and ODF, BLM, foresters, everybody's been really supportive of the idea. They may have not have been able to, well, anyway, go ahead. Wait, this gentleman first, okay? Go ahead.
We're on Griffin Lane, and now that we've seen it and had it done, it's made a tremendous difference. My concern is the people that must have resisted, because it goes along, you know, for a while, and then all of a sudden there's just this one that's totally overgrown. How do we reach out to those people again now that they can see what happened? Because I don't think people really appreciated what it was going to look like or feel like, but the feeling, the open feeling that it's created,
Yes.
is amazing.
You know what amazes me about that? That is probably how it looked 300 years ago. Well, there would have been some great big old growth trees here and there. At least on my property, there's some stumps that tell me that. But how do people know aesthetically that that's right and good for a piece of property, to have it more open? I don't understand that. There's some kind of instinctive ability to say, oh, this is safer. Yes?
Yeah, I just want to say that BLM funded the first through a Title II grant for $118,000. And then the state of Oregon paid for the next two. So that's how we were able to accomplish that 45 miles. And then wonderful volunteer work from Applegate Partnership, from Brian, from other people who came out. We had a stall and being able to get all the files burned.
Yeah.
So it really has been.
Yeah, they were, in other words, the tan, this gentleman, the tan on the map. You're right. They weren't able to participate at that level because they would have, well, there was some paperwork, but they were able to give us money, which is nice.
So going back to your question, as far as my goal, through the Firewise process, Griffin Lane, Sterling Creek, that side, will be in a Firewise community at some point. I don't have time, or a time frame. However, it's through that process that we can work with each individual landowner. And that's one thing I do a lot of now, and we have those conversations. I know sometimes that it might skip a property or you know, one person may not want to do it at that point, but might see it and then want to do it later. So we do have plans to continue to maintain.
I'm concerned about the absentee owners that really haven't even seen it. You know, I know
Right.
my neighbor lives in Washington, and they come down once a year.
For instance, on Wagon Trail, I've been able to get you know, I will hunt, you know, hunt down, if you will, our landowners, and I've gotten 100% buy-in. We're working on properties that folks
Yeah.
don't live there. You know, we just reached out.
Anyway, I want to get back to that, but let me get through these. I got another dozen or so to go. We had a pre-work visit by the contractor or the project coordinator, and we would mark and GPS the projects so we weren't accidentally doing some absentee guy who didn't even want it done. You know, we had it figured out. Lomacotsi, once we got Lomacotsi signed up, I was able to breathe a sigh of relief because I was working on doing a silviculture prescription and thinking about having to stand over a contractor who hadn't done this kind of work before and yell at him, and you know, all of that contract administration is a pain in the butt when you're getting paid to do it, and I was volunteering. So So when Lomacotsi signed up, I knew I was going to be okay. You don't have to tell those people how to do this. They do it all the time. So, and also there were a couple other contractors, State Fire Marshal was out there with a drip torch in his hand. We had a lot of help from knowledgeable people. So then very carefully, when the weather was right, boys and all the things you need, you know, the firefighters need to get to your fire. So this is a very important spot, and I'm really glad it was cleaned up. And it's also where I met Brian Mulholland for the first time. He had a drip torch in his hand, and he didn't look like a Lomacotsi guy, so I wondered, is this guy authorized to be out here, or is he just a pyromaniac? Turned out he's legit. So
We had some great fire effects at this spot, and meaning that we had more than perfect way that the fire burned around that big pine there.
yes, and that pine is still alive and making cones. So yeah, we were worried about this one old girl. Anyway, this is just some different veg types. So again, when you do your driveway, you'll have a template. This is homework. I expect you guys to go home and start up your saw. Okay, so this is pine oak, and you can see not only in the after picture is there increased canopy base height. That's very important. Those dead limbs are not near the surface where a fire can climb them, but reduce surface fuel. So the total intensity of the fire is reduced. And this one is white oak chaparral before and after. And it looks like I'm on like the second to last, third to last. Okay, we can do fuel treatment that is effective, connects communities, and sets us up for prescribed fire. And I'm sort of putting all that under the rubric of fire-permeable communities. We know we can't keep fire out forever, but we can make it so that our houses survive the fire, just like those big old ponderosa pines survived the fire. Not by having thick bark and a good wound response, but by having intelligent fuel treatment. And we've done our work around the houses. Now we need to keep going on the roadside stuff. And it took me a while to find a slide that illustrated frozen funding, but I think I did it. This is the Lake 22 Research Natural Area. If you ever want to see some humongous old growth western red cedar and old growth Alaska yellow cedar, go to Road 22. It's up east of Seattle, Research Natural Area. Anyway, I'm totally off the subject, but the funding is currently frozen, and please correct me if I've got this wrong, but if you're optimistic, contact Nate Garris, who's right there getting some water, and he will maybe sign you up or explain to you why it's still frozen. I don't know. That end of it, I don't know. And,
Good things, but I'll believe it when we get it.
and look at that, I did it on time and under budget.
Awesome.
Do I have questionnaire answer? Okay. All right. Yes.
The work that's going on now on Sterling Creek, who's doing that? Do you know? Does anybody know?
That's Nate.
It's Nate.
Some of it's mine and some of it is being done by private individuals with their own funding. So it depends on which property you're discussing.
Well, there's just a whole bunch of back there on the other side of Woodrat.
So if it's on this side of Woodrat and on the opposite side of the road, that's me. If it's on the same side of the road as Woodrat, that's not me.
Cool. Yes.
So just one thing for landowners to remember is that these communities, even though they're far apart, they need community champions or project champions or landowner champions, somebody that can really drive that conversation in the community. And it's essential for these projects to get done and for you to bring in those community members. So just keep that in mind. Find that person that can really bring you together.
And I got to say, and I'm not making excuses, guys, I did put some hours into this, but I've got a paying client, and that's got to come first. I hope you guys understand that. And it looks like he wants to keep going, so I got to do that first, you know. And second of all, I got about 1 million snowbroke madrones and manzanitas on my land that I have to deal with and get burned before fire season, get it cut, piled, and burned before fire season. So there, I've got 2 excuses. Why I don't want to be the leader of this parade any longer. I'd be glad to consult, but I can't do it. So, any others? Questions, comments? Yes.
Just to clarify, where should folks go if they want to get this work done or to get more information about it? If you are no longer leading the parade.
I guess that's me.
All right. Nate Garris. Terry Fairbanks.
So we're just putting together a little case study, so there'll be something that kind of describes that process. And we're interested in continuing to promote it. I don't know that we're going after any more funding, because that's not exactly what the district does, but more than willing to direct you to somebody that does that.
And do you still have a question or comment?
Where are we with the fuel reduction around dwellings? Like Applegate used to have funding come in the early spring.
So this month, this morning I spoke quite a bit about it. We're waiting for some BLM Title II dollars, so we'll be here very soon. At that point, we're able to come and do some work. I also have Northwest Youth Court right here.
Is it okay to sign up already?
Just get with me. We're very hooked up. However, we'll get you on the calendar.
All right. Okay, is that it? Thank you. Thank you.